Do not open that gate. Commander Vera Thane said it so quietly that the room somehow became more silent. Behind 12 inches of reinforced glass, Frost Fang stood beneath the white lights of the containment chamber. He was the largest albino predator the Galactic Research Authority had ever recorded, nearly 900 pounds of pale fur, broad shoulders, and watchful blue-gray eyes. No handler entered his enclosure anymore. No technician approached the inner boundary. Even the automated feeding system operated from behind a sealed wall. For 3 years, the aliens had studied him from a distance, and every report reached the same conclusion: Frost Fang was unpredictable. Powerful. Extremely intelligent. Impossible to socialize. Then the human delegation arrived from Earth, and everything changed. Ethan Cole stood beside Vera, arms folded, studying the chamber. He was a white-skinned human male in his early 30s, with short brown hair, a calm expression, and the kind of quiet confidence that had already confused half the station staff. Beside him stood Mia Carter, an 8-year-old human girl holding a small travel bag against her chest. Vera looked down at her. You understand that you must stay behind the safety line? Mia nodded. Yes. And you must not approach the enclosure. Okay. Ethan glanced at Vera. She understands. Vera did not look convinced. The Galactic Council had requested a behavioral observation after hearing that humans had unusually strong relationships with large Earth animals. To the aliens, the idea sounded almost ridiculous. Earth creatures were different from galactic predators. Earth humans had no claws, no armor, no venom, and no natural weapons worth mentioning. Vera had expected Mia to be nervous. Instead, the child was looking through the glass at Frost Fang with quiet curiosity. The wolf was standing perfectly still. Then Mia tilted her head. Why is he doing that? Vera frowned. Doing what? Moving his ears. Ethan looked at the wolf. She noticed it. Vera checked the monitoring display. Frost Fang's ears had shifted slightly backward. His breathing had changed too, but the system classified the movement as insignificant. Probably nothing, Vera said. Mia kept watching. He does not like that sound. Ethan turned toward the ventilation panel. What sound? Mia pointed toward the ceiling. That humming. Vera looked at the technicians. They ran a quick environmental scan. The station's ventilation system was operating normally. There is no unusual signal, one technician reported. Mia looked back at Frost Fang. He still hears it. Vera almost dismissed the comment, but Ethan raised one hand. Check the lower frequency range. The technician hesitated, then adjusted the sensor filter. A faint vibration appeared on the monitor. Vera stared at the reading. It was below the normal threshold for most species. Frost Fang had been reacting to it for weeks. Nobody had noticed. Nobody except the human child. Mia looked at Ethan. Can you turn it off? Ethan nodded toward the technician. The vibration disappeared. Frost Fang's posture immediately relaxed. The room went quiet again. Vera stared through the glass. How did she know? Ethan answered. She watched him. Vera looked at Mia. That is all? Mia shrugged. What else would I do? Then Frost Fang slowly turned toward the human girl. He walked to the inner boundary and stopped. Every alien in the observation room froze. Mia did not move. She simply looked back at him. The wolf lowered his head slightly. Vera's console began filling with unfamiliar behavioral readings. Stress decreasing. Attention increasing. Voluntary proximity detected. Vera whispered. That is impossible. Ethan did not answer. Frost Fang remained there, watching Mia through the glass. The child smiled faintly. Hi! The wolf did not retreat. He stepped one pace closer. Vera looked at Ethan. She has not even entered the chamber. Ethan kept his eyes on Frost Fang. Exactly. For the first time in 3 years, the most feared predator on the station had approached something without being ordered. And it had chosen the smallest human in the room. He has never done that before. Ethan Cole said. The observation room remained silent as Frostfang stood at the inner boundary, still watching Mia Carter through the reinforced glass. The 8-year-old human had not moved from her position, and the enormous albino wolf had not looked away. Commander Vera Thane studied the readings again. How long has he been standing there? 4 minutes and 17 seconds, a technician answered. No aggression? None. No distress? None. Vera frowned. Then why is everyone acting as if the station has stopped working? Ethan looked at her. Because something just happened that the station cannot explain. Mia glanced toward the ceiling again. Is the humming really gone? Ethan nodded. Completely. Mia smiled. Then he is probably comfortable now. Vera stepped closer to the glass. Mia, what makes you think he is comfortable? The girl looked at Frostfang. His ears. Vera checked the behavioral display. The wolf's ears were relaxed. His breathing had slowed. His posture had changed from alert to calm. Mia had noticed all of it without touching a single control. You have experience with animals? Vera asked. Dogs. How many? Mia thought about it. 2. Vera looked at Ethan. 2? Ethan smiled. That is enough to recognize a nervous animal. Vera returned her attention to the enclosure. Frostfang is not a dog. Mia nodded. I know. Then she added, but he still has feelings. The room became quiet again. Vera did not know how to answer that. For years, the research team had described Frostfang using numbers. Response times. Stress levels. Temperature changes. Movement patterns. Mia had described him with one word, uncomfortable. That distinction suddenly seemed important. The council technicians requested another observation. This time, they wanted to test whether Frostfang would respond to a trained alien handler. Vera agreed. The inner chamber remained sealed, while a handler entered the observation area on the opposite side. He carried no equipment and made no sudden movements. He simply stood where Mia had been standing. Frostfang looked at him. Nothing happened. The handler waited. Still nothing. He took one careful step forward. Frostfang turned his head away. The technician recorded the response. No interest. The handler stepped back. Frostfang looked toward Mia again. She was still behind the glass. He wants her, one technician whispered. Vera immediately corrected him. Do not assume that. Mia looked at Frostfang. He is waiting. Vera asked. For what? For me to come back. Ethan looked at the commander. She may be right. Vera folded her arms. Then let us test it. Mia was asked to leave the observation room for 5 minutes. She walked down the corridor with Ethan while the station team watched Frostfang. The moment she disappeared from view, the wolf stood. He walked toward the entrance she had used and waited. 1 minute passed. Then 2. He did not pace. He did not become restless. He simply waited. Vera watched the timer. Interesting. Ethan shook his head. Not interesting. Specific. Vera looked at him. Explain. He is not reacting to the absence of a human. He is reacting to the absence of Mia. Vera stared at the readings. That distinction matters. A lot. 5 minutes passed. Mia returned. Before she even reached the observation window, Frostfang lifted his head. Mia stepped into view. The wolf immediately walked back to the glass. She smiled. Hi again. Frostfang lowered his head. The technicians watched as his stress readings dropped within seconds. Vera stared at the numbers. It is consistent. Ethan nodded. Very. Vera looked toward the corridor where Mia stood. Bring her closer. Ethan immediately looked at her. You said she could not approach the enclosure. I know what I said. Then why change it? Vera watched Frostfang. Because I need to know what happens when the distance disappears. Mia was brought to the marked safety line, still several feet from the inner door. Frostfang followed her movement from the other side. He stopped directly opposite her. Mia looked at Vera. Is he allowed to come closer? Vera hesitated. Then she answered. No. Mia looked at Frost Fong. You heard her. Frost Fong remained still. Mia smiled. It is okay. She sat down. The wolf sat too. Neither moved. The moment was almost ordinary. That was what made it extraordinary. Vera finally understood the problem. Frost Fong was not becoming obedient. He was becoming selective. And somehow an 8-year-old human had become the one being he willingly chose to watch. If you want to understand Frost Fong, stop telling him what to do, Ethan Cole said. Commander Vera Thane looked at him through the observation glass. That is your recommendation? No. It is Mia's. Across the chamber, the 8-year-old human sat quietly near the safety line while Frost Fong watched her from behind the inner barrier. The previous observations had created more questions than answers. The research team had confirmed that Frost Fong reacted differently to Mia than to every alien on the station, but nobody understood why. Vera wanted evidence. Ethan wanted patience. Mia simply wanted everyone to stop making the wolf nervous. The next test began with a simple instruction. A technician activated the standard behavioral prompt and asked Frost Fong to move toward a marked position. The wolf looked at the marker. Then he looked at Mia. He remained exactly where he was. The technician repeated the instruction. Nothing changed. Vera checked the readings. Again. The prompt sounded a third time. Frost Fong lowered his head slightly and turned away. Mia frowned. He does not want to. Vera looked at her. How do you know? Mia pointed toward the wolf. Because he told you. The commander almost smiled. He did not speak. He does not have to. Ethan watched the monitors. She is reading his body language. Vera folded her arms. Then let us see if she can do better. Mia looked surprised. I do not want to make him do anything. That answer caught everyone off guard. Ethan nodded. Exactly. Vera paused, then changed the test. The technician removed the command prompt. The room became quiet. Mia looked at Frost Fong. Do you want to come over here? The wolf lifted his head. He did not move immediately. Mia waited. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. Nobody spoke. Frost Fong slowly stood and walked toward her side of the chamber. He stopped several feet away. Mia smiled. That is okay. Frost Fong sat down. The entire research room erupted in silent activity as the monitoring systems recorded the change. Vera stared at the readings. No external command. Correct. No reward. Correct. No conditioning cue. Ethan nodded. Correct. Vera looked at Mia. Then why did he respond? Mia shrugged. Because I asked? The commander stared at the child. You think asking is different from commanding? Mia nodded. Yes. Why? Mia looked at Frost Fong before answering. Because asking lets him say no. Ethan felt the room go quiet. That sentence mattered more than any sensor reading. The station had spent years building systems around compliance. Every behavior was categorized according to whether Frost Fong obeyed, resisted, or ignored an instruction. Nobody had considered that the predator might respond differently when given a genuine choice. Vera looked toward the technicians. Run the command test again. Ethan turned sharply. Commander. One more time. The technician activated the prompt. Frost Fong stayed still. Then Mia spoke softly. You do not have to. Frost Fong immediately looked toward her. Vera watched the display. The wolf's stress indicators remained low. Ethan noticed something else. Wait. A new reading appeared. Voluntary attention shift. Vera stared at it. What does that mean? He is not simply responding to her voice. Ethan pointed toward the display. He is choosing to monitor her. Mia looked at Frost Fong. Are you okay? The wolf slowly lowered his head. Mia smiled. Good. Vera stepped closer to the glass. Mia, what would happen if we opened the inner door? Ethan immediately looked at her. That is not part of the test. Vera answered. I know. Mia looked toward Frostfang, then back at the commander. You should ask him. Vera blinked. Ask him what? If he wants you to. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Frostfang stood. He walked toward the inner door and stopped. Vera looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at Mia. Mia simply waited. The door remained closed. But for the first time, the alien commander understood that the next decision might not belong to the scientists at all. It might belong to the Predator. And that possibility was far more unsettling than any behavior report the station had ever recorded. The door is open, Commander, Ethan Cole said. Then why is Frostfang still standing? Inside? Commander Vera Thane asked. Ethan looked through the observation glass. The enormous albino wolf stood beside the inner threshold, completely still, his pale blue eyes fixed on Mia Carter. The 8-year-old human had been waiting behind the safety line for several minutes. Nobody had instructed Frostfang to move. Nobody had called him forward. The door had simply opened, and now the entire research team was waiting to see what he would choose. Vera raised one hand. Mia, do not move. Mia nodded. Frostfang looked at the commander, then back at Mia. A technician whispered. His attention is shifting. Ethan watched the readings. He is evaluating the room. Vera frowned. He has never evaluated anything before? Not like this. The wolf took one slow step toward the open doorway. Several alien technicians instinctively moved backward. Mia remained still. Frostfang stopped. His ears shifted toward the ventilation system, then toward the observation room. Mia noticed. There is another sound. Vera looked at the environmental display. The ventilation system is offline. Mia shook her head. Not that one. Ethan checked the acoustic sensors. A faint vibration appeared from the corridor beyond the enclosure. It was barely measurable. Someone is approaching, he said. The outer door opened. 3 Galactic security officers entered the station corridor. Frostfang immediately focused on them. Vera turned toward the security team. Why are you here? The lead officer answered. Council authorization. The Predator is being transferred. Mia looked at Vera. Transferred where? A council facility. Mia looked back at Frostfang. The wolf had not moved, but his posture had changed. Ethan noticed the difference first. He understands the situation. Vera shook her head. That is impossible. Ethan pointed toward the readings. Look at his attention pattern. Frostfang was watching the security officers, then Mia, then the open corridor. He seemed to be comparing the 3. The lead officer stepped toward the enclosure. Open the secondary gate. Vera did not respond. Commander. I heard you. Then open it. Vera looked at Mia. The child was calm, but her eyes remained on Frostfang. Mia, Vera said, do you want to leave the room? Mia hesitated. I do not know. Why? Because he does not know what is happening either. Ethan looked at the wolf. She is right. The officer sounded impatient. This is a controlled research facility. The child has no authority here. Mia looked toward him. Maybe not. She paused. But he does. The officer stared at Frostfang. The Predator does not have authority. Mia answered softly. I did not say authority. Ethan almost smiled. Vera understood. Frostfang was not commanding anyone. He was making a choice. The security team moved closer to the enclosure. Frostfang stepped forward. Nobody spoke. He did not growl. He did not threaten anyone. He simply placed himself between Mia and the open corridor. The monitors changed instantly. Voluntary protective positioning. Vera stared at the words. Ethan whispered, That is new. The officer looked at the display. Override the behavioral system. Vera shook her head. No, Commander, that is an order. And that is exactly why he is doing this. The officer looked confused. Mia looked at Frostfang. You do not have to stay here for me. The wolf turned toward her. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then Frostfang stepped away from the corridor and returned to her side. Mia smiled. Okay. Vera watched the readings stabilize. The alien commander finally understood what the previous tests had missed. Frostfang was not protecting Mia because someone had trained him to do so. He was not obeying her. He was not following an instinct that the scientists could easily classify. He was making a decision based on trust. The security officer stared through the glass. What did the human do to it? Ethan answered. Nothing. Then why does it follow her? Ethan looked at Mia and Frostfang. Maybe that is the question you should stop asking. Vera slowly closed the inner door. Not to imprison Frostfang. To give him space. The wolf remained beside Mia. The station fell silent. For years, the aliens had believed that control was the foundation of every bond. Now they were watching a predator choose companionship without a single command. And for the first time, Commander Vera wondered whether humans had been misunderstood for the same reason. Perhaps their greatest strength was not control. Perhaps it was knowing when to earn trust instead. Run the test again, Commander Vera Thane said. Ethan Cole looked at her. Which test? The one that proves this is not a coincidence. Across the observation chamber, Mia Carter sat quietly near the glass while Frostfang rested several feet away. The previous encounter with the security team had changed the atmosphere of the entire station. The council no longer viewed the wolf as merely a research subject. They wanted an explanation, and Vera knew they would not accept trust as an answer. Use the standard handler protocol, she said. Ethan frowned. We already know what happens. I want the record to show it. A trained alien handler entered the observation area. He stopped at the marked position and activated the standard communication prompt. Frostfang, approach. The wolf lifted his head. He looked at the handler for several seconds. Then he looked toward Mia. He remained where he was. The handler repeated the instruction. Nothing happened. Vera checked the monitor. Again. The instruction was repeated. Frostfang turned his head away. Ethan quietly said, There is your result. Vera did not respond. She looked at Mia. Your turn. Mia shook her head. I do not want a turn. Why? Because he is not a machine. The handler looked uncomfortable. Vera studied the child for a moment. Then what should we do? Mia thought about it. Give him a choice. Vera sighed. How? Mia looked through the glass. Ask him? The commander stared at her. Then she nodded toward the technician. The command system was shut down. Every automated prompt disappeared. The chamber became completely quiet. Mia looked at Frostfang. Do you want to come closer? Frostfang did not move. Mia waited. The technicians watched the clock. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Frostfang slowly stood. He walked forward until he reached the boundary between the two areas. He stopped. Mia smiled. That is okay. Frostfang remained there. The monitoring system immediately registered another voluntary response. Vera stared at the display. No command. Ethan nodded. None. No reward. None. No conditioning signal. None. Vera looked at Mia. Then what caused the response? Mia answered simply. He wanted to. The room went silent. Vera had expected a hidden mechanism. Ethan had expected the council to reject the evidence. Neither had expected the answer to be so simple. Then the handler made another attempt. Frostfang, return to your position. The wolf did not move. Mia looked toward the handler. You are telling him again. The handler lowered his hand. That is the protocol. Mia shook her head. Maybe that is the problem. Ethan looked at Vera. She may be right. Vera studied the readings. Frostfang was calm. He was not resisting. He simply did not care about the command. The commander stepped toward the glass. Mia asked him to return. Mia looked uncertain. Why? For the test. Mia looked at Frostfang. Do you want to go back? Frostfang turned toward his original position. Then he walked there. The technicians stared at the display. Vera whispered, That is impossible. Ethan corrected her. No. It is consistent. The difference suddenly became obvious. Frostfang was not obeying Mia. He was responding to her because he trusted her. Vera looked at the handler. Leave the room. The handler exited. Then she asked Ethan to deactivate every remaining behavioral prompt. What are you doing? Ethan asked. Removing every variable except choice. Mia watched Frostfang. The wolf watched her. Neither seemed concerned about the scientists anymore. Vera looked at the final readings. He does not need control. Ethan nodded. He needs trust. Vera slowly turned toward the council display. A new message had arrived. Transfer review required. The council wanted the human and the predator separated for independent evaluation. Vera read the message twice. Ethan noticed her expression. They are not going to accept this. Vera looked through the glass. Mia had placed her hand against the window. Frostfang had moved closer to the other side. Then they will have to learn it the hard way. Ethan glanced at her. Learn. What? Vera answered quietly. That the most important thing in this room cannot be ordered. They are separating them tonight. Ethan Cole said. Commander Vera Thane did not answer immediately. She stood before the council transmission, reading the same sentence again. Transfer review approved. Human subject and predator to be relocated for independent evaluation. Across the observation chamber, Mia Carter sat beside the glass. Frostfang rested on the opposite side, his pale eyes following her quietly. Neither knew about the transfer order yet. Ethan lowered his voice. If the council takes Mia away, Frostfang will have no choice in the matter. Vera finally turned. That is exactly what they want to test. They want to see what happens when the bond is removed. No, Vera said. They want to prove there is no bond. Ethan looked through the glass. And what do you think? Vera watched Mia reach into her small travel bag and remove a folded drawing. She held it against the glass. Frostfang raised his head. I think we have spent years measuring the wrong thing. Before Ethan could answer, the station lights changed from white to amber. A council transport had entered the docking bay. Mia looked toward the ceiling. Are they coming for us? Vera activated the room microphone. Mia, stay where you are. Mia nodded. Okay. Frostfang stood. The wolf looked toward the corridor, then back at Mia. His attention remained fixed on her. Ethan checked the monitoring display. His stress level is increasing. Vera looked at Mia. Do not move. Mia frowned. Why? Because we need to see what he does. Mia looked at Frostfang. Are they going to take you somewhere? The wolf remained still. Mia waited. Then she whispered, I do not want them to take you. Frostfang stepped closer to the glass. The readings changed again. Ethan stared at the screen. His heart rate is stabilizing. Vera looked surprised. Why? Because she spoke to him. Vera watched Mia. She did not tell him to do anything. Exactly. The inner door opened. 2 alien officials entered the observation area carrying transfer authorization tablets. The senior official approached Vera. Commander, the council order is final. Vera replied. I have received it. Then prepare the human. Mia looked at Ethan. What does prepare mean? Ethan stepped closer to her. It means they want you to come with them. Mia looked toward Frostfang. And him? The official answered. The predator will be transported separately. Mia shook her head. He will not like that. The official smiled politely. The predator is not capable of making that decision. Frostfang suddenly moved toward the glass. Nobody spoke. He stopped directly beside Mia. The official glanced at the monitoring display. Interesting. Vera's voice became firm. Do not approach the enclosure. The official ignored her and continued reading. This confirms the Council's concern. The human has developed an abnormal influence over the predator. Ethan shook his head. You are still calling it influence. What else would you call it? Trust. The official looked at him. Trust is irrelevant. Mia quietly asked. Why? The official turned toward her. Because research requires separation. Mia looked at Frostfang. Does it? Vera felt something change inside the room. The child was not arguing. She was asking a question nobody had considered. Ethan looked at the transfer tablet. Commander, the Council order contains an error. Vera turned. What error? They authorized independent evaluation. Yes. But they did not authorize forced separation during the initial observation. Vera understood immediately. She looked at the official. You can evaluate them here. The official frowned. That was not the intention. It does not matter. Vera turned toward the technicians. Cancel the transfer preparation. The official stepped forward. Commander, you cannot override the Council. Vera looked directly at him. I am not overriding anything. I am following the order exactly as written. Ethan smiled. Mia looked relieved. Frostfang lowered his head. The room became quiet again. But the Council had already made its mistake. They believed separation would reveal whether the human influenced the predator. Instead, they had given Vera a reason to protect the choice the predator had already made. She looked through the glass at Mia and Frostfang. Run one final observation. Ethan asked. What are we testing? Vera answered. Nothing. Ethan looked confused. Then what are we observing? Vera watched Frostfang settle beside Mia. Whether they choose each other when nobody tells them what to do. He chose her before we ever gave him a choice. Ethan Cole said. Commander Vera Thane looked at the monitoring display and said nothing. Frostfang stood beside the glass, watching Mia Carter with the same quiet attention he had shown since the first day. The station had stopped trying to make him obey. Now the research team wanted to know whether his behavior would remain consistent when Mia was given complete freedom to leave. Vera turned toward the child. Mia, you can go to the guest section whenever you want. Mia looked surprised. Really? Yes. And Frostfang? Vera paused. He stays here. Mia looked through the glass. Frostfang raised his head. Ethan watched the readings. Let her decide. Vera nodded. Mia picked up her small travel bag. She walked toward the corridor, then stopped before the doorway. She looked back at Frostfang. I am going to get some water. The wolf remained still. Mia smiled. I will come back. She left. The door closed. Nothing happened for several seconds. Frostfang remained beside the glass. Then he slowly turned toward the corridor. Ethan checked the monitor. His attention is following her. Vera watched the readings. But he is not distressed. No. He is waiting. 10 minutes passed. Frostfang stayed near the same position. A technician entered the observation room and attempted to redirect his attention using the standard enrichment system. Frostfang ignored it. The technician tried again. Nothing. Vera stopped him. Leave it. The technician stepped away. Frostfang returned his attention to the corridor. 20 minutes passed. Mia came back carrying a cup of water. The moment she appeared, Frostfang stood. Mia smiled through the glass. I told you I would come back. Ethan looked at Vera. There is your answer. Vera nodded slowly. Yes. But then the station received another council transmission. The central screen activated. Magistrate Oren Vale appeared. Commander Thane, your report has been reviewed. Vera folded her arms. And? The council rejects the conclusion that this is a genuine bond. Ethan looked toward the screen. Of course. Vale continued. The human child has been exposed to the predator repeatedly. Conditioning remains the most probable explanation. Mia looked at Ethan. What does conditioning mean? Ethan answered quietly. They think Frostfang learned to prefer you because we kept putting you near him. Mia frowned. But I never taught him anything. Vera looked at the council screen. That is the point we are trying to establish. Vale continued. A controlled separation test will settle the matter. Ethan immediately shook his head. We already tested separation. Not under council supervision. Vera looked at the wolf. What exactly are you proposing? Vale replied. Remove Mia from the station for 24 hours. Mia's expression changed. Frostfang looked toward her. Ethan stepped forward. No. Vale stared at him. You do not have authority to refuse. Vera answered before Ethan could speak. Then send the order directly to me. Vale did. A council authorization appeared on the screen. Vera read it carefully. Then she looked at Ethan. They want proof. Ethan nodded. They will get it. Mia looked between them. What happens if I leave? Vera answered honestly. We observe what Frostfang chooses. Mia looked at the wolf for several seconds. Okay. Ethan stared at her. Are you sure? Mia nodded. If he trusts me, I do not need to prove it. Vera looked at the child with unexpected respect. Then we will do this correctly. Mia walked toward the departure corridor. Frostfang followed her movement until she disappeared from sight. The door closed. The station became silent. 1 minute passed. Then 5. Frostfang did not pace. He did not search the room. He simply walked to the place where Mia had stood and sat down. Ethan watched the readings. He is waiting again. Vera nodded. Yes. Then a new signal appeared on the monitoring system. It was not a stress response. It was a directional attention pattern pointing toward the departure corridor. Ethan stared at it. He knows where she went. Vera looked toward the closed door. And he is not confused. Suddenly, Frostfang stood. He walked to the corridor entrance and stopped there. No command had been given. No handler had approached. No reward was present. He simply stood and waited. Vera whispered. He is choosing. Ethan looked at her. Choosing what? The commander watched the wolf for several seconds. Her. He is still waiting. Ethan Cole said. Commander Vera Thane stood before the observation display, watching Frostfang remain beside the departure corridor. Nearly an hour had passed since Mia Carter had left the station, yet the albino wolf had not moved from his chosen position. He had ignored every enrichment prompt. He had ignored the familiar handlers. He had ignored the food station completely. He was simply waiting. Vera looked at the council representative on the main screen. You wanted independent evaluation. You have it. Magistrate Orenvale frowned. The result is inconclusive. Ethan shook his head. How can it be inconclusive? Because the human has not returned. Vera narrowed her eyes. That is exactly why the result matters. Vale remained silent. Ethan pointed toward the display. Frostfang has access to the entire facility. Nothing is forcing him to remain there. Then perhaps he is waiting for a handler. Vera answered immediately. There are no handlers in that corridor. Perhaps he is waiting for food. He has refused it. Perhaps he is confused. Ethan looked at the readings. His stress indicators are normal. Vale had no answer. Then another message appeared on the station display. Mia Carter transit delayed. Estimated return 4 hours. Vera looked at Ethan. 4 more hours. Ethan nodded. Then we wait. The council representative sighed. This experiment has become inefficient. Vera replied. No. It has become honest. The screen went dark. Inside the station, Frostfang remained near the corridor. Time passed slowly. 2 hours. Then 3. The technicians stopped speaking about him as a research subject. They began speaking about him as if he were simply waiting for someone important. Ethan noticed the change. They are starting to understand. Vera watched the wolf. Not yet. Suddenly, Frost Fang lifted his head. He looked toward the main entrance. Ethan checked the security feed. Nothing. Vera frowned. He heard something. A few seconds later, the station announced an incoming transport. Mia had returned early. The doors opened. Mia stepped into the corridor carrying her small travel bag. She looked tired but calm. The moment Frost Fang saw her, he stood. Mia stopped. You waited? The wolf walked toward her and stopped several feet away. Mia smiled. I told you I would come back. Ethan watched the monitoring display. The readings changed instantly. Frost Fang's stress level dropped. His breathing slowed. His attention stabilized. Vera stared at the data. 4 hours. Ethan nodded. 4 hours. Mia looked toward the observation room. Why is everyone watching? Ethan activated the microphone. Because you came back. Mia looked confused. Of course I did. Vera stepped forward. Mia, the council believed Frost Fang was responding to conditioning. Mia looked at the wolf. What does that mean? They think he only prefers you because you were repeatedly placed near him. Mia considered that. But I was gone for 4 hours. Vera nodded. Exactly. Mia looked at Frost Fang. And he waited. Yes. Mia smiled. Then maybe he missed me. The technicians fell silent. Ethan looked at Vera. The commander did not correct the child. Instead, she opened the inner observation door and allowed Mia to approach the marked boundary. Mia walked forward slowly. Frost Fang followed her movement. She stopped. He stopped. She sat down. He sat down. No command. No reward. No test. Just recognition. Vera watched from behind the glass. The council will still demand proof. Ethan answered. They have proof. They will demand something they can control. Ethan looked at Frost Fang. Then they will never understand. A new council transmission appeared. Vale's face returned to the screen. Commander, prepare the human for permanent transfer. Vera stared at him. No. Vale looked surprised. You are refusing a direct council request? Vera looked through the glass at Mia and Frost Fang. I am protecting a voluntary bond that your own data confirms. Vale's expression hardened. You are choosing the human over council authority. Vera answered calmly. No. I am choosing the evidence. The transmission ended. Ethan looked at her. That will have consequences. Vera nodded. I know. Mia looked toward them. Are they angry? Vera answered. Yes. Mia looked at Frost Fang. Is he? The wolf remained beside her, calm and still. Mia smiled. Then I think we are okay. Vera looked at the two of them and finally understood what the council had missed. The experiment was no longer about whether Frost Fang could be separated from Mia. The real question was whether the aliens were willing to respect a choice they could not command. The council was wrong about the human, Commander Vera Thane said. And they were wrong about Frost Fang. Ethan Cole stood beside her, watching the final report appear across the station display. For 12 years, the Galactic Research Authority had classified Frost Fang as an uncontrollable apex predator. For weeks, they had classified Mia Carter as a possible influence on him. Now both classifications had been removed. The new report contained only one phrase: voluntary social bond confirmed. Ethan read it twice. That is going to change everything. Vera nodded. It already has. Inside the observation chamber, Mia sat on the floor beside the glass. Frost Fang rested on the other side, calm and attentive. There was no command system active. No handler stood nearby. No reward had been placed in the enclosure. Nothing was encouraging the wolf to remain there. He simply chose to stay. The council transmission opened one final time. Magistrate Oren Vale appeared on the central screen. His expression was no longer confident. Commander, the council has reviewed your complete evidence. Vera waited. And? Vale looked toward the behavioral report. We accept the finding, Ethan raised an eyebrow. That was fast. Vale ignored him. The human child did not condition the predator. Vera nodded. Correct. She did not control it. Correct. And the predator independently selected her presence. Yes. Vale paused. Then we have a larger problem. Ethan looked at Vera. What problem? Vale answered. If this behavior is unique to humans, our current understanding of their species is incomplete. Mia heard the conversation through the speaker. She looked up. Why would that be a problem? Nobody answered immediately. Vera activated the microphone. Because the galaxy has spent a long time believing humans are ordinary. Mia looked confused. Are we not? Ethan smiled. That depends on who you ask. Frostfang lifted his head. Mia looked at him. He thinks we are ordinary. Ethan laughed softly. I think he likes you. Mia smiled. That is enough. Vera watched them for several seconds. She remembered the first day, when she had warned everyone not to open the gate. She had expected fear. She had expected panic. She had expected the human child to prove the station's assumptions correct. Instead, Mia had noticed a sound nobody else could hear. She had recognized discomfort where the instruments saw only data. She had offered a choice where the aliens offered commands. And Frostfang had answered that choice in the only way that mattered. By staying. Vera looked at Ethan. Do you know what the most important part is? Ethan shook his head. The human did not need to prove she was stronger. He looked through the glass. Because she was never trying to be. Vera nodded. Exactly. Vale's transmission remained open. Commander, the Council will issue a new classification for human behavioral studies. Vera replied. What classification? Vale hesitated. High adaptability. High empathy. High social intelligence. Potentially significant cross-species compatibility. Ethan smiled. That sounds impressive. Mia called from the chamber. Does it mean we can go home? Ethan looked at Vera. The commander smiled for the first time. Yes, Mia. Mia stood and looked at Frostfang. Can he come? Vera paused. That depends on him. Mia looked at the wolf. Do you want to come with us? Frostfang slowly stood. He walked toward the exit and stopped beside her. Ethan looked at Vera. I think we have our answer. Vera nodded. The station. Doors opened. Mia walked forward, and Frostfang followed at his own pace. Nobody ordered him. Nobody called him. Nobody needed to. The aliens watched in silence as the human child and the albino predator left the chamber together. The Council had arrived expecting to discover how humans controlled dangerous creatures. Instead, they had discovered something far more difficult to explain. Humans did not need to dominate everything they encountered. They could earn trust from beings that refused everyone else. They could notice what others ignored. They could wait when others demanded obedience. And sometimes, the smallest human in the room could change the way an entire galaxy understood her species. Vera watched Mia disappear down the corridor with Frostfang beside her. Ethan stood quietly at her side. What will the Council call this? He asked. Vera looked at the final report. A discovery. Ethan shook his head. No. He looked toward the corridor. A warning. Vera understood. The galaxy had spent centuries asking whether humans were dangerous. After watching Mia and Frostfang, the better question was much simpler. What happens when humans finally decide they belong here?